The cycle of doom is a sequence of tennis targets that puts you further and further behind the point, makes it less and less likely that you're going to win the point, while simultaneously making you run more and more and more and more. That sounds terrible, right?
Listen, do you hear? That is the sound of ultimate suffering.
Well, guess what? We all do it. I guarantee you've done it in your matches before. I know I have. And knowing what it is so that you can avoid it is critical to your success, especially if you want to win more with less running while being able to hit easier targets and making your opponent hit more difficult ones. That's what this is all about. That's what smart tennis is all about. So before we actually uncover and expose what the cycle of doom is, we need to take a little bit of a step back and just talk about one isolated type of target. And then you'll see how it layers on top of itself and compounds and becomes this terrible monster, honestly. So let's pretend we're in the middle of a point and this player has moved out to her right to hit a forehand. From here, she has two main options. She can hit the ball down the line or she can hit the ball cross court. There's more nuance than that, but just for the sake of keeping it nice and simple, one quick thing. Remember, she could hit an angle here to this spot, which travels off the court. So that's why this person is positioned here. Make sure you watch the previous video if you haven't already. This is the correct position for this player. When she decides to go down the line, all four of these negative things take place. Number one, the percentage likelihood of making the shot decreases because the net is higher here than it is across the middle, and the court is shorter here than it is from corner to corner. So she takes on more risk. There's a less chance of making the shot. Number two, there's more running when she recovers. When she hits down the line, where's her recovery position? If you watch the previous video, when the ball is here, where does she need to recover? She needs to recover to here. If she were to hit the ball cross court instead, then where does she recover to? She recovers to here. So by hitting down the line, she forces herself to have to run further to get to the farther away recovery position. Number three, her opponent doesn't have to run as much. And this really kind of happens or is compounded as the point continues. What I mean by this is when you hit down the line, the furthest your opponent is going to have to run is to the line. The ball is traveling straight. On the other hand, when your opponent hits cross court, they could hit an angle that pulls you off the court, past the single sideline. And this is the last one. When you repeat this and you go down the line again, the furthest your opponent is going to have to run is the sideline. And then guess what? They have an angle away from you. If they take that opportunity, they could run you off the court again. And so your opponent, the furthest they're going to have to run is from here to here. Meanwhile, the furthest you may have to run is from off the court to off the court. And it's really even wider than that. So the more you hit down the line, the more running you have to do, the more risk you're taking on, and this all starts to compound. And so for them, when you hit down the line, it's less work for them, and they hit an easier shot. They have a wide open cross-court shot, high percentage, easy shot, while you're hitting a hard one. Meanwhile, you have more work to do, you've got to run more, and you're taking on a harder shot. This is a big mismatch. And remember, how do most points end? I'm not going to answer it. I want you all to answer in the comments down below because I've made this point many times. I made it really strongly in the previous video. So if you want to know what the answer is, go down in the comments. A whole lot of people are going to answer it, and I'm going to pin and highlight one of them. So now that you see the principles that are at play here, let's go ahead and take a look at some point examples from real life so that you can see how this plays out and how the cycle of doom really starts to grow and expand. Before we get to the examples showing how you can really shoot yourself in the foot with this and do more running while taking on more risk, while making it easier for your opponent, first, I read all the comments. So I hear what you guys are saying. And I've been talking a lot about geometry and high percentage and all that sort of thing. This is what people think about when they think about hitting down the line. They think about smashing offensive shots, hitting winners, going to the open court and putting away the point, right? Like that's the way we all want it to work out. And it can work out this way. It can work out this way. Like high-level players need weapons. So please hear me loud and clear. Like you need to be able to develop offense. And so shots like this are critical to develop. It's not that you don't ever want to change direction or go down the line. That being said, Now we're going to shift gears and go to some 5-0 level players. These two players are strong, intermediate, probably 4-0, somewhere in there. Now we're going to go to some high level players and see how this type of shot selection can backfire in a hurry. These are two 5-0 level players. Let's go ahead and play through this one and look at the contrast between this point and the previous point. Previous point, by the way, came to us courtesy of Tennis Troll channel, and this courtesy of Dill Plays YouTube channel. Both YouTube channels, incredible resources. Make sure you go check them out and subscribe. So here we've got a player who's in trouble and stretched out and decides to go down the line. This is what happens when you take on that risk of going down the line. This is, remember, a higher risk shot compared to going cross courts. His opponent, look at how far his opponent has to move. Not much at all. Because he was outside the court and tried to hit down the line, the ball actually comes in towards his opponent a little bit, and now his opponent has a high percentage shot angling away from the other person, and this is all just like worst case scenario. That's why I chose this example, because you get to see exactly how big of a contrast there is between smashing down the line and having it work out and smashing down the line and having it not work out. There's a huge risk versus reward. And this is one of the big messages I want to get across today in this video. Going down the line can be a good thing, but when you don't do it at the right time, and it's just like, because, oh, they're not over there, I'm going to smash it over there, you're giving your opponent easy points, and you're making life so much more difficult for yourself. Let's look at how this type of decision compounds and goes into that cycle of doom. Here's those same 5-0 players, the same match. Watch how this point unfolds. And you'll see how the player on the far side really gets himself into trouble again and again and again until finally he ends up putting himself out of his misery and just making the unforced error. And this is where the cycle of doom comes into play. It's layering low percentage after low percentage after low percentage target and having to run more and then more and then more, shot after shot. And so right off the bat, this very first shot, the return of serve, he's hitting it down the line, which means immediately after his return, he's got to get to a recovery position of somewhere on this side of the court because he hit the ball straight ahead. As opposed to, had he hit cross court, he only would have had to recover to somewhere around there. He's making more work for himself immediately while taking on that higher risk of going down the line. And then remember, meanwhile, this person with his forehand is saying, wow, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead, take a high percentage shot and hit it away from you and hopefully cash in on that opportunity to try to make him run. So this shot comes back as a rally ball across courts. Excellent job by the player in the near court trying to take advantage of that. And then as this shot is hit, he's able to easily get back to the right position. He's already in position and ready to split step before the ball is even hit by his opponent. Because he hit cross courts, he only has to move from here to here. And he's in the right position. Contrast that with what just happened over here. Watch this really quick. Here's the return of serve. After hitting it down the line, here's where he started. After hitting down the line, where does he have to get to in order to be ready for the next shot? His ideal recovery position was right here. He didn't even get there in time because of the change in direction, excuse me. Meanwhile, this shot, this player right here only had to move this far, like one step. You can see right there, 4 steps versus 1 step. Which do you want in your match? Do you want to have to take 4 steps after every shot, or would you rather take 1 step after every shot? I'm boiling it down and simplifying it. It's not always that simple, but this is just a really good illustration of how these principles can and do play out all the time. So rather than go back to a neutral exchange and kind of reset the point, this person on the far side goes down the line again. And so now he's got to recover. Instead of only having to recover to here, he's got to get all the way over to the other side of the court. He just made more work for himself again, while again opening up a high percentage shot for his opponent to be able to target cross court, angling away from him. So he just compounded how much work he has to do and made another open court for his opponent to hit a high percentage shot, which he does. And it's kind of too bad that this clipped the net, ended up being a net cord, because it would have been kind of fascinating to see what the player on the far side would have done after he got exposed for the second time. But kind of interesting to me, the coach in me in my head is saying, please, far side player, please just go ahead and just get back to even. Like, you got away with down the line shot number 2 and down the line shot number 1, down the line shot number 2. What are the chances of being able to cash in on a third one without either shooting himself in the foot or just finally opening up such an easy shot for his opponent that he just puts the ball away, like we saw in the previous example? For you at home, the chances of layering 3 of these decisions together and coming out on top consistently, because that's what you need. You need to win 40, 50, 60 points to win a tennis match. Your chances of doing that consistently are unbelievably low. And even at a 5-0 level, that's what happens here. And you can see the frustration as he tries that low percentage shot again and finally misses. So this is the impact that your targets have. Your targets have the power to create more work for you or less work for you. They have the power to give your opponent difficult shots or easy shots. It's up to you. And again, I'm not saying there's not a time and a place for down the line. There is a time and a place for down the line. But it needs to be done mindfully and with good reason and good purpose and intent behind it. If this is helpful to you, please do me a favor, click that like button. Appreciate it. And the next video you don't want to miss. I'm going to be going over magical targets, open exposed targets that will give you easy points that you're missing all the time. It might already be published. If it is, click the video right here. If it's not available yet, subscribe so that you don't miss out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.
No, that's happy.
Less happy? Oh.
Yeah.